The Charleston killer, avowed racist or complete lunatic? And why is it always one or the other? The president has relit another racial fire, but to arrest someone for saying the N-word? How far left will the Democrats go in order to ensure their ownership of the White House? And in telling it like it is, the only place you will hear the true origin of the Confederate flag in question. It's what we do every day. Never tell me the odds. I'm Ed Berliner. This is The Hard Line for Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015.
It is clear that a majority believes a conversation should begin and the General Assembly should debate the placement of the Confederate soldier flag on the State House grounds. I stand before you today with an amendment to our sine die resolution.
In any case, decision makers of both countries must always remember that confrontation is a negative-sum game in which both sides will pay heavy prices and the world will suffer too. Talking to each other does not create win-win all the time, but both sides will lose in the case of confrontation.
And our work on trade is not finished. In addition to requiring final passage for TPA in the Senate, the President also wants to provide vital support like job training and community college education to an estimated 100,000 workers per year. That's why he continues to urge Congress to send trade adjustment assistance to his desk this week so he can sign it and do exactly that.
Experts say the many pictures and inflammatory words on the website featuring 21-year-old Dylan Roof reveal a lot about him and his recent embrace of white supremacy theories.
The writing seemed to add support to the notion that he was a lone wolf.
Sources say the FBI believes it was indeed Roof who maintained the website called Last Rhodesian. He referred to himself as being alone in a fight against blacks, writing, "The event that truly awakened me was the Trayvon Martin case," saying that's when he started his research on black and white crime.
The website authored by Dylan Roof speaks volumes: racial hate, a need to seek a whiter world, and a belief that his was the righteous cause. It's honestly nothing new. We've seen and heard these twisted maniacs far too many times. But that happened in Charleston, South Carolina. And what it has created are multiple repercussions that few could have imagined. Ones that many believe are long overdue. Ones that many believe are nothing more than contrived political jobbing. Our guest is senior pastor of Hope Christian Church in Maryland, also founder and chairman of the High Impact Leadership Coalition. Welcome back, Bishop Harry Jackson. Bishop Jackson, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me with you.
When you hear people say that this is nothing more than a politicization of what's going on here, and that some people are using what happened in Charleston, the racist attitudes, for nothing more than political gain, how angry does that make you?
Well, it makes me very angry because I think there's a real problem. I do think that there's politicization and overemphasis of a point of view, but it's more like a Rorschach chart. You know, the ink splot thing. Meaning whatever you bring to the picture, you give it your interpretation. And so is it a gun control issue? Is it a mental health issue alone? Is there really a race issue in America? I would say that you could have discussion around all those points, but I do believe we have a very, very sick young man, and it is exposing the fact that, much to my chagrin, racism, which I thought was going to be dead with the millennials, is still alive and well. And what I'm most encouraged about is that people poured out in South Carolina, and they're saying, in our community, we want our dream to be more like King's dream, or what I like to say, God's dream for America, place of human dignity. Many people are trying to get their word in edgewise and make their statements. Does that make sense to you, sir?
It does indeed. And you also said something in there that I find very interesting. You said you had hoped that the millennial generation would be the end of racism then. What made you think that? But then again, more importantly, what is it that's leaning to you right now that says it simply won't happen?
Well, what made me think that was that I've seen a lot more interracial marriages, especially if you go to the major cities on either coast, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., or the West Coast, even Chicago. I've seen that there is a different kind of attitude, live as you want to live concept with the millennials, they seem to be much more easygoing and relational. All the stats say that some of the traditional problems that we as older people, I'm talking about folks who are at the mid-40s to their mid-80s, are in a different world in terms of some of those social issues. But what we find in Baltimore is that the guys standing on top of the cars breaking out windshields were young people. What we found here is a guy who is, of all things, involved in some Rhodesian army plot, is somebody who was born after that nation was dissolved in terms of name change. So it just seems to me that we have allowed there to be a passing on of negative worldviews, and because of that, we really have to take, in my view, some assertive action to bring healing and training. But I don't think it's impossible, but it's complex. It's not just a race issue. It is class, in my opinion, generational poverty, and then the race issue spikes it. So when you've got a sense of being excluded, pushed out, when you haven't got the educational background that you think that you should, when you really have got forefathers and friends and family that are disadvantaged, then you can feel like the world is against you because you're black. There is racism in America. Blacks do have pushback at times, but I think that we're so far ahead of any other nation in the world that you can't say it's just race, but we can heal this divide.
Then let me do this. I got about 2 minutes left, and there's two very difficult questions here. People will say the removal of the flag from government grounds in South Carolina, taking it off shelves at Walmart and the rest. What will that really solve? And is there a fear in your mind that this will galvanize an opposition and they will say, you take our flag, we are going to be stronger than ever?
Well, I think anytime you force somebody to remove something like a flag, it's going to bring pushback. If I convince you to give it up, then you may do that willingly. But I feel as though taxpayers' dollars being used for something that is so incendiary and polarizing, it's probably the better part of wisdom to take it down. And I am for First Amendment rights. But in this situation, I think you've got to take the high ground of saying, we're going to let the people in the state decide, but within reason, honor that flag in a museum and take it down. That would be my recommendation as the Christian thing to do, because you're concerned, you're vexing people who feel like they've been victimized by this symbol of what they call oppression.
I have about 30 seconds left. Bishop, do you believe this should be a presidential issue?
Well, I think the culture should be a presidential issue. I think that when Mike Huckabee says, hey, I don't want to talk about this, not presidential enough, I think he's saying, I'm going to choose not to weigh into something that may have pushed back. I think Huckabee and others should have said something. And if they can't win the heart of people, once again, to my point, then I think then I wonder how much leadership they're going to have in the nation. But not speaking out, I thought it took a little less, how can I say it, not enough courage is what I want to say. And at another date, we can talk about President Obama weighing in with the N-word. And I think on the other side, he's pushing in to say these things are presidential issues, and I want to force discussion. And it's sort of like somebody throwing a tear gas bomb into a room and then exiting. You guys deal with this now.
And what we will do exactly is we will do that, because you're right, it is another related issue as well. Bishop Harry Jackson, always a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much, sir. We'll look forward to talking again.
Thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. Coming up tonight, right here on The Hard Line, a whole lot more. It's time to go ahead and weigh in soon with the political animal. Rick Unger and Michael Brown are here. And when the political animal gets going, a lot of the talk is about Bernie Sanders. President Obama pushing the trade deal. He's got what he wants, but does he really? And former Representative Charles Bass will be here to talk about New Hampshire, polls, Donald Trump, and more when the fastest 60 minutes in news continues.